All right, welcome back, everyone. I want to make a motion to come out of closed session.
Support.
A motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wushtabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, we are now back in our regular session. Next up is public comment for this first.
You gotta make that motion before public comment.
Which motion?
The one that we were going to do.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah. I want to make a motion to approve Ms. McGuire, Mr. Sutton, Mr. Palmer, and Mr. Horning to the mediation team during the mediation of the Header versus Oscoda Township legal case.
Support?
Would you amend that motion to include the court-ordered mediation? Mr. Palmer?
Yes, it's court-ordered mediation. I hope I put my glasses on so I could see here. Yeah.
And I'll still support that.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wushtabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. So we have our mediation team.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, now is our first public comment. We ask that you fill out a card, and you have 4 minutes to speak. Please state your name for the record when you come to the podium. Do we have any cards?
We do. First up is Regina Fortner.
Good evening. I'm Regina Fortner, and I would love for you guys to think about some of the items that I'm going to bring up today in today's meeting. On the employment agreement for the chief of police, okay, I have a couple of concerns that I would love to see if we could address. One of them would be on the salary, on the increases, okay? The standard right now for inflation is 2.4%, okay? Doing something along maybe a 3% instead of jumping right into a 4%. And I don't know how this works, but in the world that I came from, I was given my goals, what goals I had to attain. And once I reached those goals, I got part of my bonus. So, you know, looking at something about, you know, if you don't get all of your goals, you still get part of your bonus, but it would be according to that, okay? My next piece that I would love for you to consider is on the township automobile, okay? I am really sorry to be this way, but in my figurings, looking at an automobile, I'm figuring if we're gonna get an automobile for the chief of police and he's gonna be able to use it during duty, off duty, whatever, all right? That's going to be a minimum of $10,250 a year out of his 5-year contract. That's not including the gas, the maintenance, and the insurance. So now we've just increased the salary by at least, at the very bare minimum, $11,000, okay? The next thing that I would love for you to think about is on section 14B that has to do with severance pay, okay? I'm sorry, but for me, I'm asking you to think about a year worth of salary for somebody that we're letting go. You know, in my world, you know, that would be wonderful. But being financially fiscal and being smart to our township, why would I want to do that? Okay? Now, mind you, I'm just asking you to look at these things because I may not have all the answers. You know, there may be things out there that you could tell me. In my last minute, I would like to go on to the one for Mr. Al, okay? Now, Mr. Al has been doing his job working out at the park for a long time, okay? And now we're looking at putting him into the DPW, okay? Looking at what the salaries for those two positions usually are, the 90,000 really doesn't sound all that out of place. But my question is he really gonna be able to do the full-time job of two different departments? Okay? That just, maybe he can. Maybe things have been streamlined. I don't know that. So those are the things that I would like you to consider.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have another card.
We do, Mr. David Boback.
David Boback, Oscoda, Michigan. David Boback, Oscoda, Michigan. Good evening, board members. I'm here to address what I see as a blatant disregard for transparency and accountability.
Microphone.
Oh, okay. Got to lean up on it, huh? Blatant disregard for transparency and accountability in the sudden proposal for a 5-year contract for the police chief. Just a month ago, you chose to defer a major hiring decision, citing that the need to let the new board decide. And now, with 5 of you not returning after the election, it's frankly appalling that you're attempting to push through a major contract, one that wasn't even mentioned until just a few days ago. So let me be clear, this is not a standard practice for small municipalities like ours to offer a 5-year long-term contract to a police chief. It's a reckless financial decision, ties up our funds, removes the flexibility we need. This isn't just bad governance, it's a direct disrespect to the taxpayers and citizens of Oscoda. And frankly, it's not just the timing that's an issue. There's a pending lawsuit regarding the police chief's hiring process. Now you want to offer a contract behind closed doors without the public insight, and just, offer it a couple days ago? This isn't how you earn trust or show respect for the people you claim to serve. It's a clear attempt to block a decision before new leadership can even take their seats. And let's not ignore the fact that one of you has yet to apologize for your disrespectful comments made online, showing once again the pure lack of disrespect you have for this community. I'm calling on this board to show some integrity for once. Defer the decision to the new board, who will be responsible for dealing with the new consequences. Let the incoming members, who are the future leaders of this community, have the say they deserve. Don't force a decision that locks us into something that could hurt Oscoda down the line. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any others?
We do, Nancy Roy.
Oh, this is high. Okay. I'm just going to reiterate some of the things that Regina and the gentleman before me stated. But I will bring up that pay scale for the chief in DeWitt, which is just outside Lansing, they pay a lower amount for their chief of police than what you're proposing to pay here. And they have so much more opportunity for their constituents, their taxpayers, to have good paying jobs to be able to afford to pay for that. We don't have that when your only household income is about $48,000. Excuse me. Also, I do agree that the severance pay for a year is excessive. Somewhere there's got to be a better, even choice for that. I would say 3 to 6 months, just because they have a format for finding jobs probably a lot faster than in other fields of employment. And as far as the vehicles, I don't have a problem with the vehicle, but I do have a problem since this chief was allowed to not move into our district. We gain no tax money from him as an employee. He does not pay any property tax because he doesn't live here. So we're not getting anything back in this agreement. I would really appreciate it if you would look at it from that point of view for the taxpayers, that we're paying him a nice income, we're providing him a vehicle, but there's got to be some kind of a give back, because we have lost that tax revenue. And I don't know that you've ever thought about that when you gave that permission, and it's not the first time. Even our interim superintendent does not live in the community. And again, we get nothing back for the tax base. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Mark Wygant.
Hey everyone. Sorry, I was waiting for the clock. Mark Wygant, Oscoda. Hope you guys are doing well today. First off, I want to start off by saying I appreciate all your time and commitment to the community. You have a tough job no matter what. So with that said, at the risk of kind of beating a dead horse here today, I also want to speak on behalf of the police contract that you guys are going to discuss today. And I'm just going to kind of read word for word something I wrote here recently once I became aware of the contract that you're discussing. So first and foremost, I'm a strong supporter of our police department. I fully recognize the importance of providing our police chief with stability for fair employment conditions. I think that's important, so I want to start there. I do support an employment agreement for our police chief and for other department heads throughout the township. It's shocking actually that we don't have one in place already previously. However, the proposed 5-year contract, coupled with the extensive severance package that others have mentioned here recently, is not in the best interest of our township as a whole. Such a long-term agreement, which includes 1-year extensions and a full year of severance pay with accrued time off, as I read it, ties the hands of the future boards and limits the community's ability to make adjustments based on changing needs, okay, for 5 full years. The township has historically not entered into such long-term employment contracts of this nature, and I believe this proposed arrangement is excessive. I advocate for more of a balanced approach, such as a 2-year contract with 2-year renewals, possibly, or terms that are similar to something like that. This structure offers the necessary flexibility for both the township and the chief, ensuring continuity while allowing future boards to reassess the needs of our police force periodically. In other words, to be able to do their job and govern appropriately in our community. Additionally, severance package that includes 13 to 26 weeks, so 3 to 6 months, I think is a little bit more appropriate rather than a full year. It's a fair and reasonable approach for our community of our size. It reflects our respect for the service of the police chief while safeguarding taxpayer dollars and ensuring that the township can remain agile in its decision making. Also, a severance package is usually a recruiting tool, right? If you're going to recruit somebody from wherever, you know, Saginaw, Flint, wherever, to come here, they're uprooting their life, making a commitment to us. They want a little something in return, right? So I understand the need to have a severance package in there. I just think 1 full year, especially when you couple that with 5-year guarantee employment, is excessive. Let's see. So to be clear, again, I support the employment agreements with the police chief, and I support the one that makes sense for both the chief and the township. That said, the current EA is excessive. I'm repeating myself here a little bit. Our township boards, this is what I'm asking of you, should seek to find a more fair and balanced approach to this agenda item that makes sense for the township and the employee. now and in the future. It's kind of setting the precedence when you're putting out such a big contract all at once. Let's see. Just kind of a question I would ask, like, I get that he's a known entity to us now, but would we want to offer a 5-year employment contract to an unknown? So that's a question I'd like you to consider as well. I look at these types of decisions through the lens of balancing risk and reward. The proposed EA for the chief of police possesses a tremendous amount of risk for the community and requires very little skin in the game from the actual employee. A couple other items there. I believe the employee is required to give a 120-day notice, but it doesn't say what happens if he doesn't. In addition, when it talks about cause in this employment agreement, there's one small paragraph at the very, very end, and it speaks towards criminal conviction, nothing else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last comment card is from Ann Hopcroft.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Ann Victoria Hopcroft, known as Vicky. I'm an Oscoda homeowner, and I was born and raised in Oscoda. I live here now with my special needs child. I'm here to speak also about the contracts, but perhaps more importantly, in relation to those contracts, I would like to recognize each of the leaders, each of the trustees for your important role and your service during your term of office. And as you sunset in that role, those of you who will be stepping aside, I see this as an important opportunity for our township and for you to complete your leadership in this capacity by serving the township in passing on your knowledge to the next board, and perhaps in the context of one of your meetings or perhaps in board comments to offer your thought process, what occurred over the term and what are your thoughts for the future, and bringing it all together and expressing yourselves as to what you see for Oscoda, what problems you faced, how you faced them, what the challenges were, so that you can bring continuity and strength to our township as it will be governed by the new board. It's a terrific opportunity. And keep in mind that we are a RRC community. This is an important honor that we achieved, and you as a board worked very hard to attain this goal. We are only the 63rd municipality in the state of Michigan to attain this goal. It's a big deal, and we have an important position to uphold. Consistent with that, it's my opinion that it's ill-advised to enter into a 5-year contract at this time for the chief of police. With no respect for Chief Boland, I'm very respectful of and grateful for his service, but I think it makes more sense to have the board that's coming in January to have an opportunity to negotiate that contract and really work together and have some actual terms, not just a boilerplate, but to really talk about what the needs of Oscoda are. Your strengths and your contributions coming up in comments could importantly inform such a relationship. But I do feel it would be hasty and ill-advised to jump into that kind of a contract right now without the input of the community that would be so helpful and useful and facilitative and honoring our status as an RRC community. On a different topic, I'd just like to say I very much support the reappointment of Tim O'Connor to serve on the Planning Commission. He is a very dedicated commissioner. He's well-informed, fair, and communicative. He's a great public servant, and I fully support his reappointment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have no other cards.
That's it? All right, moving on to the consent agenda. We have the regular meeting minutes from September 23rd, annual meeting of the boards minutes from September 30th, and our Parks and Recreation meeting minutes from September 20th. Any questions or comments on any of those? Then we have our prepaid check run for October 15th in the amount of $96,272.78. Check run for October 1st, 2024, $84,674.69. And check run from October 8th for $129,306.71. Also the C2R2 report, the pre-granted refunds, CWSRF 2024, DWRF 2024, and the EPA grant 2023. Any questions or comments on any of those? Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next up is the superintendent's report.
Thank you, sir. The first item on our report tonight is an oil drum purchase request. So upon taking over the reins at DPW, Mr. Apstas has found that we were purchasing our oil in 1 quart increments, and he's come up with a plan to instead purchase 55-gallon drums and pumps that will save the township thousands of dollars over the next couple of years. So I'm asking you to consider approval of drum and pump purchases in an amount not to exceed $3,000.
I would make a motion to approve the purchase of the oil drums and pumps as presented and not to exceed $3,000 to be paid from account 101-751-751.000.
Support.
Discussion, comment?
I think it's a great idea. Buying in bulk.
I can tell you from my personal experience owning a trucking business for almost 40 years, the difference in cost between buying oil by the gallon jug or quart jug as opposed to in bulk and 55 gallons drum is literally thousands of dollars in savings. So I think this is something, again, our Mr. Apstas has come up with, and I think it's a great idea. We probably should have done this a long time ago. But I think it's an excellent idea to save the township a great deal of money. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Next up, we have a facade grant approval. Ms. Howes has completed a few of the facade grant projects, and those projects have come in under cost, so she's freed up some funds. The next applicant in that process is Zubeck Ford, and we're asking for approval of the facade grant for Zubeck Ford in an amount not to exceed $6,683.64.
I would make a motion to approve the facade grant request for Zubeck Ford as presented in an amount not to exceed $6,683.64 to be paid from account 101-250-801.100.
Support, Sutton?
I was looking over the packet there on to see what he's planning on doing to that building, and yes, he's going to make our downtown look a little sharper. Yep, I'm happy to hear that.
And quite frankly, that was the intent of the facade grant program. The township set aside $50,000 a year for the facade grant program with the idea that we would take on applications until we hit the $50,000 mark. But then if we didn't use all of that, other applicants that would come in, we would consider them for any monies that were left over. So this is clearly the intent of the program from the very beginning. So I think this is a great move, and I'm glad we're able to, benefit a number of our businesses in town being able to give their buildings a facelift or a facade lift, if you will. Any other comments, questions?
I would just like to say thank you to Nancy for all her work. I know this hasn't been easy, but as she closes these out, she recalculates, she follows up with everybody, making sure that all of those dollars are getting the most bang for their buck in our community. So, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Nancy. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Wishtabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
My next item is a streetlight replacement. At the current time, we've got an existing center suspension high-pressure sodium lamp at the corner of Division and Court Park. We're having, consumers is having trouble getting easements from neighboring property owners, so they've suggested that we construct a pole with a span and a LED Cobra light attached to that. And it requires both contract amendments to our existing consumers agreement and a resolution approving the work. There's no financial impact to the township.
I would make a motion to approve the contract amendments and resolution with Consumers Energy as presented.
Support.
Comments, questions? I think this will be something also that will save us some money. The ELD lamps
Yes.
are brighter and more efficient and less costly than the old sodium vapor lamps. Any questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wishtabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
All right, our next item is the police chief contract. This contract's been reviewed by the township's labor attorney, and I ask that you consider approval of the contract as presented.
I'll make a motion that we table this until the new board takes office.
Is there support? Hearing none. I will make a motion to approve the police chief contract as presented.
Support.
Can you tell me if there's been an actuarial study done for the police chief's contract and for the parks? Well, we'll just stick with the police chief contract right now. If there's been an actuarially study done to show the effects long-term on the budget?
There has not been an actuarial study done, no.
Mr. Palmer, can you tell me who's on the committee that was the negotiating people?
The negotiating team is myself, Mr. Wishtabarth, and Mr. Cummings.
Can you tell me why Mr. Cummings was never invited to any of those?
He was on the committee when we interviewed the police chief and negotiated his contract a year ago.
He was not a part of any of these discussions for anything that's in this contract that's being presented.
Mr. Horning presented a Zoom meeting opportunity for myself, Mr. Wishtabarth, Mr. Boland, and Mr. Horning, and I believe Mr. Cummings was included in that, but it was on October 2nd, a Wednesday, and I know he is oftentimes not available on Wednesdays.
Was Mr. Cummings notified?
I don't know. I'd have to look at my records.
But we did have 2/3 of the negotiating team there.
And you negotiated it all in one day?
It wasn't a negotiation, it was simply the attorney drafted a contract, and we went through the contract with Mr. Boland, and this is what we came up with.
So we've never had a contract for the police chief before. Does the board, why would there be a change? And why wasn't the board presented with that option
What option?
to have a contract? Because as far as we were concerned, the motion was to negotiate the salary and his retirement benefits, and that was it.
What we did.
That isn't what you did.
That's what we did a year ago. He's been working for over a year.
You didn't negotiate that.
We did.
So then why didn't it come back to the board if you were renegotiating the contract?
The motion that was done by the board was to approve the hire of him, subject to negotiation from the negotiating team.
Right, and you just said that you did that, but now you're renegotiating, so why
We're
the
not
board didn't?
renegotiating, we're simply coming up with a contract for him.
But the board didn't make a decision to do that.
That was part of the original negotiation, was to
No, it wasn't. It wasn't the
negotiate
motion.
his contract and then offer a contract.
That was not the motion that was the board approved.
Well, I know we've heard a lot of public comment about the contract. I don't think $80,000 for a police chief for Oscoda Township is unreasonable. That was what we negotiated over a year ago. The severance only has to do if he's terminated without cause. So in other words, and it's, if,
Is it noted in the contract that he's at will?
yes,
So wouldn't that be without cause?
no. The terms of the contract specify if he's terminated without cause. Now you have to understand, why would you terminate somebody if they're doing the job and aren't having a problem? Why would you terminate that employee? And I was involved in a committee when I was downstate with a school board, and most school superintendent contracts are for either 5 to 7 years, and they have severance clauses in all of those that state that if they're terminated without cause, they will be paid the full contract amount. So we could have done it that way for this, but it's for 5 years. If, as long as he's doing his job, if he's not doing his job, he could be terminated without any severance if there's a problem. If he commits something, whatever, it doesn't take any rights away from the next board to terminate his employment. It simply gives him some protection that he's not just going to be arbitrarily thrown out without any reason.
Why would you think that?
Well, I have my own reasons to think that, but that's, why would you be concerned with that? If the new board isn't going to fire him without any reason, then why is there a concern? I don't understand.
Well, when I asked you about that, you said that that was the reason why you were getting into the contract, is to protect him from being fired from the new board.
Mm-hmm.
Well, your job is to protect the township.
Mm-hmm. There we are. Is there any other comment from other board members?
I'd just like to address the car. We address the cars for take-home cars for all officers once we have a full fleet. So this is just putting a little language in the contract on a motion that was unanimous on this board back in February or March for take-home cars. It's not a personal car, it's an employment car, and it's for them to get to the office and get to work as soon as possible.
It
Or
says
in an
right in the
emergency.
contract, personal use.
I understand what the language
It says that it's not going to hold them, and it's not going to get them in trouble in a family emergency.
No, it says that also. It says personal and emergency use if necessary for the spouse.
If
It's
ne-
right in your board packet.
If necessary, yeah.
The personal use is coming back and forth to work.
It doesn't specify that.
But in an emergency, just like the other officers having a car, they will be able to go right from home to wherever the emergency is.
I have one more comment. I'd just like to make aware to the board, to superintendent, and to anyone involved in any of these contracts that MTA discourages this practice, and it has been cited as being illegal.
Well, I don't believe that to be true, but any other comment by this board? I'd like to call order, please. We don't need a lot of disturbance from the crowd. Thank you. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wursterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
No.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next.
Our next item is the Parks/DPW Director contract. This contract has also been reviewed by the Township's labor attorney, and I ask that you consider approval of the contract as presented.
I'll make a motion that we postpone this contract until the new board is seated.
Is there support? Hearing none. I will make a motion to approve the Parks and DPW Director contract as presented.
Support.
I have a couple of things in regard to this. In the contract in talking with Mr. Cummings, and I have had a couple of discussions about this, and we never talked about a contract for Al. Actually, we were never notified in writing saying he was selected for the position, I don't believe. And so I'm not really sure how he can go from being interim to being the contracted employee without the contract committee meeting. Did you guys meet for this position?
Yes.
And I would like Mr. Horning to make sure that Mr. Cummings was included in those emails, please. But again, he was never a part of any of those discussions. I will say that in one of the clauses for Mr. Apsidas, it talks about him getting a bonus. Number one, I didn't agree with that in the first place. It's taxpayer money, and nobody should be getting a bonus for those type of things. But now, if Mr. Apsidas takes this position, he isn't going to just be solely running Old Orchard Park. He's going to be running DPW too, which that means that how is his bonus going to be directly just for him? It would be a team effort on the part of his whole employees out there. So that should be taken into consideration if this is passed. Also, I think I'll just leave it at that, but again, what I said earlier, just making the board aware, the superintendent and anyone involved in these contracts is the same goes for this contract as well.
Any other comments? Discussion? First of all, I'd like to point out that the 10% increase bonus that he would be getting is not taxpayer money. This is from money that's generated from Old Orchard Park. The net gross that he earns, that the Old Orchard Park earns for the township, and it would be net of what the profit is from Old Orchard Park. And there's an example of how that's calculated in the packet. So, any other questions?
I might add, in regards to that bonus and his pay structure, it was a unanimous board vote back in January. So I think we can all look that up.
Yeah.
So that's where the bonus is tied to.
Yes, it was then. You're right.
And with combining, not replacing Mr. Hamlin's role, and combining this with Mr. Apsidas, with Parks or DPW, it's a savings of a $30,000 salary and $20,000 in benefits. So it's an actual savings to the township of $50,000 per year.
It actually isn't a savings because you've lost an entire full-time person, which they're going to have to hire, and that's already been discussed. So you're going to be losing money because you're going to have to hire another full-time person with benefits. So you're losing $30,000 by giving him an increase for that.
Disagree with you, and there's been nothing stated that they're going to hire. Mr. Apsidas has not come to this board or to the superintendent, to my knowledge, stating that they're going to hire somebody.
I'm sure, why wouldn't they? They're shorthanded. Bill did a lot of things and was in charge. You can't be at Old Orchard Park and just popping in and checking on people and doing whatever. Bill had a lot of knowledge, was very useful in a lot of aspects, not even just DPW, but with the water and sewer department, with the equipment and things like that, even for Old Orchard Park. You can't tell me that that's not a loss, because if it's not a loss, then why did we pay Bill?
Bill has done a fantastic job for this township, not
Correct.
degrading Bill in any way. Mr. Obseda said he could pick it up, and that's where it went.
Any other comments? Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
No.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
I have one more.
Next.
Oh, I'll just wait till public comment.
Next.
Next, I would like you to consider approving invoices from Micah Myers Attorneys for professional services related to the CWSRF 2024 sewer revenue bonds.
I'll make a motion to approve paying Michael Myers invoice 706661 in the amount of $9,399.64 as presented to be paid from 2024 CWSRF checking.
Support, Sutton.
Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
And similarly, I ask that you consider paying Micah Myers Attorneys invoices in relation to DWSRF water revenue bonds.
I'd make a motion to approve the payment in the amount of $9,273.64 from the 2024 DWRF checking as presented.
Support.
Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next, under other, we have the conditional offer of employment for an open police position. I would make a motion to approve Chief Boland's request for offer of employment and academy sponsorship for Mr. Daniel Plouffe as presented.
Support.
Questions, comments? This is simply, do you have anything, Matt, you wanted to add to this?
No, we conducted interviews about 2-3 weeks ago, and Mr. Dan Plouffe is an exceptional candidate, and I support his sponsorship at the Academy.
Is this for an open position that we have now?
Yes.
Any other questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the EIC alternate position. And I would make a motion to approve Mason Laux appointment to the EIC as an alternate with a term ending on December 31st, 2027.
Support, Sutton.
Any questions, comments? I met with Mr. Laux. He's a very nice, very smart young man. I think he's going to, he met with Ms. House, and I think he's going to make a good addition to the EIC. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the AT&T lease extension notice.
This is just a routine extension of cell phone tower lease agreement with AT&T.
Yeah, this is a contract we've had with them for quite some time.
Yes.
Yeah. I would make a motion to approve the lease extension with AT&T for 5 years at the rate of $13,800 per year as presented.
Support.
Questions, comments? This is, like I said, a lease we've had for quite some time with AT&T, and they merely want to extend it for another 5 years. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Worcesterbart?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next up is the Northern Michigan's Children's Assessment Center. I believe we have someone here that would like to speak.
Good evening. I'm Rebecca Yunker, the Executive Director with the Northern Michigan Children's Assessment Center. So here tonight because I want to talk with you about our services and what we do for the children in your community and the families, how we partner with local law enforcement and ask for support in those services. So we at the Northern Michigan Children's Assessment Center support law enforcement working on one of the most difficult cases that an officer is going to have to run into in their career, and that's child sexual abuse. When you look at the stats, 1 out of 10 children, statistically speaking, will be sexually abused by their 18th birthday. And we also know that only about 30% of those kids ever disclose abuse. So we have a lot of work to do to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the community. We are being able to identify those kids who are disclosing sexual abuse, and also making sure then that we are providing those services for those kids. So in your packet, I have information in there about those stats, so that kind of outlines those stats. So what do we do at the Children's Assessment Center to meet that need? It's an environment that we provide where kids can be heard. So Children's Assessment Centers, we're accredited by National Children's Alliance. There's approximately 40 in the state of Michigan. My center has 2. We have a Roscommon site and a Tawas site, and we cover 6 counties. We saw 365 kids come through our doors last year with allegations that there was concerns of abuse and neglect. So we have to provide those kids with an environment. We know if we're taking kids down to the police department to be interviewed, when they're being interviewed by officers in uniform, it's just a scary environment for them. And often kids in a scary environment aren't gonna open up and start disclosing and being able to articulate if they were abused or not. Another thing that we provide is very skilled, trained forensic interviewers. We can provide these interviewers that a lot of small departments can't afford to send officers to the specialized training that we need as interviewers, not only to give those kids who are disclosing abuse a safe environment for them, but making sure that we are interviewing in a manner that we're not getting false disclosures. The last thing that we ever want to do is falsely accuse somebody of abusing a child. On the other hand, being able to build a case and work with our partners so we can hold offenders accountable. We're also a place where children heal. So we know that investigation and that forensic interview is one of the most important things that our law enforcement partners need, but then what do our families need? So it's not our job to investigate those cases. Our job is to help assist law enforcement when they're investigating those cases. I see my job then as the executive director to make sure that we have staff that can help these families heal. So we have therapists, we have advocates, and we do medicals on site. We provide all those services in our building at Tawas. We're on the grounds of Ascension, My Michigan now. We've been there since 2017 providing services. So we're a place where these kids can heal, and we work together as a team. Our partners, our law enforcement, protective services, and our prosecutors. So monthly we come together, we meet as a team, we talk about how we can strategically work with these families, making sure that needs are being met, what kind of policies, procedures do we need, and working with our communities and making sure our communities is educated on those services. When you look, I have in your packet too, what statistics tell us about underserved. So we know, like I mentioned, only probably 30% of kids disclose when they're being abused. 1 out of 8, 1 out of 10 is what statistics tell us. When you look at the population in Oscoda County, our child population is right around 4,500. Last year, out of that, we had 55 of those kids came through the center. So what is that telling us? That there's a lot of kids out there that still are probably being abused in some manner and not getting the services that they need. So is the need out there? The need is great, and we need to continue meeting that need. I put our budget in there. We've been at the center for approximately, well, we've been here. I opened the Roscommon Center in 2014. We opened the center in 2017. We are funded by, it's called VOCA, which is a Victim of a Crime Act. We are in the state budget. We're under the Department of Health and Human Services. There is a children's advocacy line item in our state budget. Unfortunately, we know how federal budgets go. We have not had an increase in our budget from our federal grant since 2019. The need continues, our hiring staff continues, making sure my staff is trained professionally, that continues, and our state and federal budgets have not. So in the last couple years, we have been reaching out to our partners. Like I said, we cover 6 counties. We are in every county's commissioner's budget, and we're in every county's sheriff's department, or the commissioners, and all but 2 city police departments in our 6 counties. So that is, I'm here tonight to talk with you about our professional service agreement. So with that agreement, asking for your support, we would, we work with all of Oscoda Police Department, East Tawas, Tawas City, the Sheriff's Department, and all MSP. Anytime any of those officers have a referral that child there's concerns that child was abused or neglected, our center is available for them to bring that child to our center. They're there, they're watching the interview. We have a room with a closed circuit television. So my interviewer is interviewing those kids while law enforcement is there observing the interview. So they have firsthand knowledge of that case, what that child may or may not be disclosing, what they need to do to investigate their case. After that forensic interview, we video record all of our interviews for evidence purposes. They get a copy of that interview. They they continue their investigation, and then my staff works with that family. We provide expert testimony in any case that goes to court. I have a pediatrician who can testify. Our mental health therapist testifies on trauma. Our forensic interview testifies on behalf of making sure that we're doing that interview in an evidence-based practice, which just helps build these cases. I want to share just a small email that our prosecutor here, Jim Beccarelli, sent to somebody he was talking to in the community about the center. Outside of the police, they are one of the most useful tools I have ever used, especially when it's a case involving an abused or sexually assaulted child. The services provided to these young victims are irreplaceable. I'm glad to be working with them. And that was a comment from our prosecutor. I did bring my support here. Mark Ferguson was a chief of police when I started the center, and since then has become a board member.
Good evening. Thank you for considering Rebecca's request. So I like to try to bring a couple different perspectives that I have all in one person. So I spent 20 years in police work, and during that time, my early part of the career, I was working without a center that was available to us. So my experience was interviewing kids that were making these disclosures, oftentimes in a patrol car, maybe in their driveway, in full uniform, with them in the front seat, and what we would really cringe at now. But for police officers that may experience similar situations, our car is like safety for us, and it's a secure place that we can control, so it made sense at the time. We might be doing that interview with the child, not knowing whether the perpetrator was going to drive by, or maybe they resided there. It's just there were a lot of unknowns until you got further into the investigation. Later in my career, we were fortunate enough to have Rebecca start the center in Roscommon, and then a few years later start a satellite in Tawas. And so I was able to then have the perspective of utilizing a center. And if you just contrast, my earlier experience with what she just described, and then not only the interview in a nice, child-friendly, comfortable setting, safe setting, without a person in a uniform, a person that does this every day, where I was trained in forensic interviewing, but I might do it once or twice a year. And so I'd have my cue card, looking at my, following my steps, because it's a very rigid protocol to make sure that you're not leading and doing things the right way that are going to be accepted in court. These people do it every day, and so they do it in a comfortable way, and kids can feel that. They would feel that I was uncomfortable going through my protocol, and so now they're being presented with the interview in a much more comfortable way. And then my third perspective is, now that I'm out of police work, I got onto the board of directors for the nonprofit. I'm currently the vice chair, and now I get to see from behind the scenes, the professionalism, the funding fight, all the behind the scenes that goes into making this center work, as well as even more services that I was not aware of when I was in police work. So that's what I like to try to bring to the conversation, and I'm always open to assist with doing tours at our center. We've got, we're right on the Tawas Hospital campus, and always welcome to bring people in and show them what we have and what we have going on there. And in your packets, we're celebrating the 10th year. So actually tomorrow, we're having a celebration. There's an invite card there for everybody to come and join us. It's free, and we're gonna promote the center and then have a good time. We've got a comedian to lighten the mood a little bit later, but I'm always available. I think most people would be able to find me and get a hold of me. I'm always a good local contact to discuss the center further if you need.
I think the card says the 16th, that would be Wednesday?
Or sorry, Wednesday.
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Anybody have questions?
I guess, I'm all for you. I don't understand why if you're funded by the state, why do you need our approval?
We're not. We're a complete nonprofit. So we're not a governmental agency. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. So we are in the state budget as a nonprofit.
So you haven't been granted any authority by the state. You're asking for authority from the township to interview the children.
No, it's not really about authority.
Yeah.
It's about funding. So there's one of these centers, 30-some in the state, that serve a variety of kinds. We serve 6 counties altogether. So this has been an operation. The authority is, I guess, there. It's not a question of authority. It's requesting funding to assist with our current budget. So essentially the police department, the township through the police department, uses the service in every investigation involving a child with these type of allegations.
Yeah. So all of our professional service agreements that we have with all of our other police departments, that's for providing that service, that they know they can utilize our center, they can bring those kids to our center, and then we're going to provide the service to help assist them in their investigation. So it's a fee for service in a sense, but we're just asking for an allocation.
Okay.
One thing that you and I spoke before the meeting was that in reading through this, there's a couple of it mentions the Oscoda Township Police Department primarily, but there are a couple of spots where it mentions the Tawas Police.
Yeah. And I believe the one in your packet should be updated. So, because we do have a professional service agreement with East Tawas.
Yes. The copy that's in our packet for the board meeting has the
Right,
Tawas
it needs to
Police.
be updated.
I was wondering, you mentioned in your police work in the beginning, you would have the kids in the front seat of the car in the driveway. What is the procedure now that they're in existence, do you take the kids and automatically
No,
go
great
to the
question.
center?
Oftentimes, and this may be department to department, and I'm out of police work now, but I think a typical protocol would be that the complaint comes in, so a disclosure is made through some source, maybe the school or to anybody, a family member, and the complaint comes in, the police officer receives it, and if the child is of a young enough age where, and the situations are appropriate where it's best that they get interviewed by the assessment center, there may not even be contact with that child. There will be some background investigation done, getting some preliminary information, contact with the center. They then, coordinate scheduling the interview, and then the interview is a one and done, where in my experiences in the past, I would interview, and then potentially Child Protective Services would have to interview, and maybe other disciplines would have to interview the same child, multiple times, where now they may not even have direct contact with a police officer, or at least in uniform, until after the interview. So it creates just a much more trauma-sensitive situation. Does that answer it?
Yes, thank you. Say it's a shame that these kind of facilities have to exist, but I think we can all be grateful that they do. Can you tell me, has our police department used your services already?
They have a case coming through on Wednesday. They were there last week. Yeah, we get a lot of cases from Oscoda, sadly.
Okay, that's too bad. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Has this contract been looked at by our attorney?
I believe it has. I would suggest that when you make a motion, you do so to approve it as to form, and we also need to figure out a contract amount, and then approve it subject to final attorney approval.
Yeah, I was going to say that was my next question. There is no amount in here for the contract.
So, and I apologize, when I sent that, it was just, I didn't realize it was gonna go to this level. I sent it, to the department saying this is a typical contract that we have with other departments. We can have that discussion in regards to, the beginning date, and amount in those type of things. And then I got an email saying I had an opportunity to be on the agenda and I took advantage of it. So that's not the final.
What is it based on a per child or per case basis, or is it a contract fee where we pay the same amount, doesn't matter how many kids come through?
So all the other departments are we have not broken each county down. Or each township down. We have stats. We have looked at how many kids are coming through per county, and most small departments are doing $3,000 to $5,000 on an annual allocation.
Okay. And you said that you guys only have this year, and I understand what you were talking about, where all these different entities have to interview the child. So you're saying that you guys as a nonprofit can do one interview, and CPS as a state agency will accept that interview from you?
Yes.
How did you manage that?
There is the Governor's Task Force. This protocol was established in 1997 by the Prosecuting Attorney's Office and the Governor's Task Force. So when they came out with the Child Forensic Interviewing Protocol, that was the model that they, utilized was Children's Advocacy Centers. The first Children's Advocacy Center started in Huntsville, Alabama in 1980s as a nonprofit in order, and really what it was a community that came together and said, we have to have a better system to investigate child abuse cases. We can't put these kids in a system that was made for adults. We have to create. In hindsight, should it have been a governmental agency? Maybe. But they were established as a nonprofit. Children's Advocacy Centers have been a nonprofit since the 80s and are fighting for funding ever since from the state level. Best practice now, every prosecutor in my 6 counties tells their officers, if you get a child abuse case, you use a Children's Advocacy Center. So what was happening before the center came up here is these families and the officers were driving to where they could find a center. I know Roscommon County used Midland, Bay City, Saginaw. I worked in Kent County. And because they know that's what best practice is for these cases, to use a Children's Advocacy Center. Protective services are involved in our cases if it reaches the criminal So if it reaches the level of being a criminal act, then CPS does come to our center. The judges, it's all recorded. We follow a protocol. It's set by the state of Michigan. It's all evidence-based best practice. And truthfully, a lot of prosecutors encourage all the cases to come through the center because they know a lot of departments don't train their employees like we can, or like our standards mandate us to. So CPS is not bringing all their cases through the center. They get a lot of child neglect cases that don't reach that criminal level. If it reaches the level that they potentially could be criminally prosecuted, or there could be criminal prosecution, then our internal policies and procedures set by every prosecutor, that those officers are to bring the kids to the center.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Is there a motion?
I think, Matt, didn't you propose something in a little bit of writing to,
Well, there's two ways you could do it. You could approve it as to form, subject to determining the final contract amount and final attorney approval, and authorize me to sign the agreement. Or you could just table it till the next meeting, and I can get that taken care of and bring it to you next time complete.
I'll make a motion, we table it till the next meeting till you have that information.
Support.
Can you make sure that they'll have enough money in their budget for that?
I will.
Thank you.
We'll postpone this to the next meeting. Motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes. We will take this up at our next meeting. I think it's something we probably need to participate in. If our police department is using these services, I think we need to contribute to it. Next is the tax sale water write-off request. I had a question on this because it has on there the due date is November 25th. So are we jumping the boat here to?
No, sir. So when a property is foreclosed on in a tax sale, all debts such as water bills, special assessments, et cetera, and any remaining taxes that can't be recovered are extinguished. So there's zero chance of getting these funds back. So I'm asking that you acknowledge and approve writing off $140.88 from water revenue.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we write off the amount presented by the water department. As backup.
The 140.88?
Yeah.
I will support that. Motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Palmer. Any questions? Comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the Planning Commission reappointment. I would make a motion, I would move to reappoint Tim O'Connor to the Planning Commission with a term ending December 31st, 2027.
Support.
Any discussion, questions? Roll call when you're ready.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next, schedule a water and sewer work session, budget work session.
Yes, I would request that the board consider scheduling the work session for October 22nd in the afternoon, and if that is not feasible, then move on to the 23rd or the 24th.
I forgot my phone.
I'm not available on the 22nd.
The dates are the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
I think I'm good.
23rd,
I'm not going to be here any of those days.
any of those days.
I'm out of state, funeral and vacation.
Any of those days you'll be here?
Have a family funeral, and then we had a planned vacation.
You could also consider afternoons later this week. Is that correct, Catherine?
This week? Let's see.
I can't Wednesday.
How about the 17th, Thursday the 17th?
I can do Thursday.
I'm in California.
Bob,
I'm available.
you available at 17th? Let's do it on the 17th. Do you have a time?
I'll leave that to the board. I would prefer something like 2 o'clock, 2 to 4 o'clock.
Okay, 2 o'clock? Does that work for everybody that can make it?
Yep.
All right, I will make a motion that we have a budget work session on October 17th at 2 o'clock.
Support?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wusterbarg?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. We will see everyone on the 17th. Next up is the Eiler proposal that is in your packet. This has to do with the old school. Is there a motion?
I'll motion that we table this until we can form some type of a committee, if we don't already have one, to look into the details or have Matt do it. I know that in the past, about 8 years ago or so, we talked about putting that property into, letting it go to a land bank, Michigan Land Bank, so that there was opportunities for building it then, getting grants and money like that. And we were talking with the MEDC to do those type of things, and then it took a different direction. So I don't think it's a good idea for the township to take it, personally. But if there's other options out there through the MEDC, then I would want to look at all of that.
Well, I think we have a committee. I think it can go to the planning commission because it kind of goes in line with what we're doing in the future with municipal services.
I can't hear you.
Oh, I said we have a committee. It could go to the planning commission and have it see how it fits into their plans with municipal services in the future. As he's pointed out that this might be a good location and, you know, it's an eyesore as it is. So I think it should go to the planning commission as they're working on that.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that.
Would you amend your motion for that?
I'll make a motion that we have the EIC take a look at it, see what the benefits, good and bad. There's probably some history or paperwork. I'm sure you've found some pieces of paperwork there.
I'll support it.
It's for the planning
Who's
commission
the
or
support? Bob?
EIC.
We have a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Taser, to send this proposal to the EIC committee to review. I would suggest they look into some sort of an assessment of the building. But EIC can review this proposal and then bring a recommendation to the board at a later date. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. That is the end of our agenda.
Didn't you add something?
No, we have one more.
What do we have?
Request for a policy committee meeting.
Oh,
Well, we have everybody at one table.
got to write that down.
Oh, policy subcommittee.
What's in regards to,
I thought we were done with the handbook,
right?
so I just wanted to see where we were at on that, so the new board has that, so it's not just a disarray. I mean, if they're gonna wanna change or anything, so they have something in place, and then I wanted to look at just the departmental spending rates and review those with you guys, and see if there's some consideration to adjust those per department. But this seems to be the easiest place to get everybody to agree to.
Together.
anything.
Yeah.
Remind me again, who's on that policy committee?
Policy committee is you,
Us
me,
four
yeah,
Mr.
Ray
Taser
and Taser, yep.
and the superintendent.
and the
Yeah.
superintendent. Could we do it either before or after the budget work session on the 17th?
Before,
Yeah, do it before.
Before?
I can anyway.
I don't think it'll be a very long meeting.
No,
So maybe 1 o'clock on the 17th?
yep, perfect.
Okay.
That works for you too, Bob?
Yeah.
Okay. I would,
Do I have a motion to approve policy committee meeting on October 17th at 1 o'clock?
I would make a motion to approve a policy committee meeting on October 17th at 1 PM.
I will support. We have a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Palmer. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. And finally, we come to our final public comment period. You can comment on anything you would like. You have 4 minutes. Please state your name for the record when you come to the podium.
I will note if the people up in the box up there can do the clock for me, because my computer died.
Yeah, they've had it. It's working.
I did it earlier, but yeah.
Yeah, they had it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Regina Fortner, and one of the things that I didn't get to in my first 4 minutes, and now it's a little bit different, so I'm asking the board on on the employee contract for the chief of police, okay? Do you know that you just voted in and approved something with a blank dollar amount in a contract? Okay? I'm looking at section 13, and it states, in lieu of providing medical benefits, employees shall receive a monthly stipend of dollar open line, which shall be in addition to and separate from his base salary. Is there, and I know you're not allowed to answer me. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting that. But to me, I mean, I didn't have enough time to go through everything that I wanted to say before, but I'm thinking anybody, that would be something serious to look at, okay? Because as I look at it, that means anybody could put any number in there. And with that being said, I know that a lot of negative stuff has come out tonight, but I do appreciate every one of you. When I'm asking these questions, I'm doing it because they're questions that I have, not to be negative. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Sorry, look, Section 13, that is a clerical error on my part. That portion of the contract is governed by our employee standard practices, and Mr. Bowen will get a monthly stipend of $200, just like all other employees that choose to forego health insurance.
That's a lot better than I thought it was gonna be, so, okay.
Anyone else? Any other public comment? Seeing none. Board comment? Mr. Spencer? No, thank you. Mr. Sutton?
Just remind everybody, absentee ballots are in. I believe everybody who does absentee regularly has already got theirs. Early voting starts on the 26th at Tawas Township for the whole county. And if you haven't got an absentee ballot and need one, stop into the office and get one from us. Otherwise, we will see everybody on election day.
Thank you. Ms. McGuire?
I'm going to pass.
Okay. Mr. Taser?
Nope.
Mr. Westerbarth?
Nope.
All right. I think Mr. Horning answered your question. It's our standard practice for all of our employees that choose not to take our medical insurance, that they get a stipend to cover whatever deductibles they have on whatever policy they have, and it's, you mentioned the amount. So we do that with all of our employees. It actually saves the township money if we don't provide medical insurance. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and I will call this meeting adjourned.